The NBA draft is supposed to be a crystal ball, but sometimes it's just a coin flip. And these 7 guys are the proof. You've got Darko Milicic, picked ahead of Carmelo, Bosh, and Wade, and then basically disappears. Then there's Anthony Bennett, misses his first 15 shots as a #1 pick and never recovers. These are the 7 draft busts that didn't just fail. They rewrote the future of the teams that chose them. Number 7. Hasheem Thabeet, the defensive monster who couldn't score. Picture this for a second. It's 2009. The Memphis Grizzlies are sitting at number 2 overall, and the decision in front of them feels obvious. On the board is a 7'3" center who just averaged 4.2 blocks per game at UConn. Best in the entire country. A guy who made the rim basically unusable. James Harden is still available. Stephen Curry is still available. But Memphis looks at all that size, all that defense, and says, that's our guy. They take Hasheem Thabeet. And here's the thing. This wasn't insane at the time. At UConn, Thabeet was actually dominant. He broke records. He won Defensive Player of the Year. He anchored elite defenses and looked like the kind of center teams spent decades searching for. On that end of the floor, he looked legit. The problem was, that's where it stopped. When a player is 7'3" with ridiculous length, scouts start projecting instead of evaluating. They don't ask what he can do. They ask what he might do one day. He'll learn to score. He'll figure it out. You can't teach height, except sometimes you also can't teach feel. Thabeet gets to the NBA, and the offense just never comes. As a rookie, he averages 3.1 points per game while shooting nearly 59% from the field, which sounds impossible until you realize how few shots he was actually able to take. This is a guy whose looks were almost all at the rim, and even then, he couldn't create, couldn't read defenses, couldn't keep up. And that's when the league exposed him. The NBA was faster, stronger, smarter. The game moved at a speed his processing just couldn't match. Rotations were late, reads were missed, confidence disappeared. And once that happens, minutes disappear right along with it. By 2014, Thabeet was barely seeing the floor in Oklahoma City, 8 minutes a night, 1.2 points per game. The player drafted to anchor a franchise for a decade was essentially out of the league in 4 years. But here's the part people don't usually talk about. Thabeet didn't vanish. As of 2025, he's still playing professional basketball in Tanzania. He found a level where his size still matters, where the game slows down just enough, where his career didn't have to end with the word bust. And honestly, there's something human about that, because sometimes a player isn't a failure. Sometimes the NBA just isn't the right place for them. Number 6, Michael Olowokandi. The wrong first overall pick in a stacked class. Let's rewind to 1998, because this draft was stacked. You've got Dirk Nowitzki, Paul Pierce, Vince Carter, and with the first overall pick, the Los Angeles Clippers decide their franchise savior is Michael Olowokandi. Now here's where it starts getting weird. Olowokandi didn't grow up dreaming about the NBA. He didn't come up through AAU circuits or elite prep programs. He didn't even start playing basketball until he was 18 years old. Before that, he was a track and field athlete in London, setting British age group records in the triple jump. Then almost out of nowhere, he switches sports, ends up at the University of the Pacific, and somehow convinces NBA scouts that he's the best player in an all-time loaded draft. And to be fair, you can see how it happened. He's 7 feet tall, athletic, mobile, strong. The body looks perfect. And NBA teams have always loved betting on bodies. Because when the tools look right, teams stop asking what a player is and start imagining what he could be. The problem? There was no foundation. Olowokandi had the physical gifts, but the game itself was still brand new to him. The footwork wasn't there. The instincts weren't there. The feel for the game just never fully developed. It was like handing someone a Ferrari the same week they got their driver's license. Over a 9-year NBA career, he averaged 8.3 points and 6.8 rebounds. Not terrible numbers, but those are rotation player stats, not first overall pick in a historic draft stats, not franchise center stats. And then the injuries hit. Chronic knee problems, hernias. Any momentum he built got wiped out almost immediately. But even before the injuries really took over, there were warning signs. Reports of attitude issues, struggles with effort, an inability or unwillingness to absorb coaching. There's even a story that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar tried to mentor him. And Olowokandi just didn't care. And that's what really seals it. Because while the Clippers were trying to figure out how to make this pick work, the rest of the league was cashing in. Dirk Nowitzki went 9th and became a Hall of Famer. Paul Pierce went 10th and won Finals MVP. Vince Carter changed the league's entire perception of athleticism. The opportunity cost is brutal, and that's why, decades later, Michael Olowokandi isn't just remembered as a bust. He's remembered as a reminder of what happens when teams fall in love with potential and forget about basketball. Because sometimes the biggest mistake isn't who you pick, it's who you pass on. Number 5, Sam Bowie, the guy who made drafting ahead of Michael Jordan. A thing, you know that phrase, worst draft pick ever? More often than not, people are talking about Sam Bowie. And if we're being honest, this one isn't funny. It's almost tragic. Because Sam Bowie wasn't some random reach. At Kentucky, he was the real deal. 13 points, 9 rebounds, over 50% shooting. He had size, touch, mobility, everything teams were looking for in a franchise center in the early 1980s. But there was one problem, and it followed him everywhere. His legs just wouldn't hold up. This isn't revisionist history either. Bowie's college career was constantly interrupted by injuries, stress fractures, broken bones, chronic pain. A fracture in his left tibia cost him nearly 2 full seasons before he ever reached the NBA. And here's where the story gets uncomfortable. Before the 1984 draft, Bowie downplayed how bad things really were. Years later, he admitted that his leg was still bothering him during pre-draft medical exams, but he didn't fully speak up. Whether it was fear, pressure, or hope, he took the gamble. Portland did too. The Trail Blazers, desperate for a big man, selected Sam Bowie 2nd overall, believing they'd finally found their cornerstone. 1st overall, Hakeem Olajuwon. 3rd overall, a kid named Michael Jordan. That's how history freezes him in time. But here's the part that gets lost. When Sam Bowie was healthy, he could actually play. In the 1989-90 season with the New Jersey Nets, Bowie averaged 14.7 points and 10.1 rebounds. That's not bust production. That's a legitimate starting center in the NBA. The talent was real, the skills were there, his body just couldn't cooperate. And that's what makes his story different. Sam Bowie wasn't undone by lack of effort or poor attitude. He wasn't exposed by the league. He was betrayed by biology and timing, by a body that never allowed his career to stabilize long enough to show what it could have been. After basketball, Bowie found something the NBA never gave him: peace. He returned to Kentucky, got involved in harness racing, and stepped away from the shadow of that draft night. In interviews, he sounds grounded, content, at ease with his story, and maybe that's the real ending. Because Sam Bowie isn't the villain of the 1984 draft. He's not the reason Michael Jordan became Michael Jordan. He's just one of the clearest reminders that sometimes greatness isn't about talent alone. Sometimes it comes down to luck. Number 4, Kwame Brown. The high school phenom buried under pressure. Kwame Brown's story hurts in a different way. Not because the talent wasn't there, not because he didn't belong in the NBA, but because everything around him made success almost impossible. In 2001, Kwame Brown became the first high school player ever taken 1st overall. That alone made history. The league was changing. More teenagers were jumping straight to the NBA, and Kwame wasn't just a prospect. He was supposed to be the blueprint. And then reality set in, because the Washington Wizards didn't just draft him. They drafted him while Michael Jordan was running the team. Take a second and really think about that. You're 19 years old. You're still learning how to be a professional. And the person evaluating your every move, the person shaping your future, is the greatest basketball player who has ever lived. Reports from that era paint a brutal picture. Jordan was demanding, unforgiving, allegedly calling Kwame degrading names, constantly questioning his toughness, his effort, his right to even be there. For a veteran, that might have been fuel. For a teenager still figuring himself out, it was overwhelming. And here's the part that gets lost. Kwame Brown was not some unplayable disaster. Across a 12-year NBA career, he played 607 games, averaging 6.6 points and 5.5 rebounds. Those are real rotation player numbers. That's a career most players never even sniff. The problem wasn't ability, it was expectation. When you're picked first overall, anything short of stardom gets labeled failure. His best season came in 2002 to 2003 when he averaged 10.9 points and 7.4 rebounds. There were flashes, there was progress, but the environment never allowed patience. Development needs room to breathe, and Kwame never had that. Then came the trades. He ends up with the Lakers playing next to Kobe Bryant on playoff teams, but still never really trusted, never truly empowered. And in 2008, he's sent to Memphis as part of the deal that brings Pau Gasol to Los Angeles. That trade told the league everything. Kwame wasn't a centerpiece. He was a contract, a piece of paperwork, a reminder of unmet expectations. But here's the twist, because this story doesn't end the way you think. In 2025, Kwame Brown has found a different spotlight. He runs a YouTube channel with hundreds of thousands of subscribers. He talks openly about his career, critiques today's players, and, maybe for the first time, controls his own narrative. No pressure, no impossible comparisons, no Michael Jordan looming over his shoulder. And maybe that's the real takeaway. Not every redemption arc happens on the court. Sometimes it's just about surviving the label and living well after it. 3. Darko Milicic. The prospect nobody was ready for Darko Milicic's story is one of the most mind-bending draft stories in NBA history. Because on paper, it should have worked. He was a 7-foot athletic freak from Serbia, a legit physical specimen with upside written all over him. And in 2003, the Detroit Pistons used the 2nd overall pick on him. That's right, 2nd overall. Ahead of Carmelo Anthony, ahead of Chris Bosh, ahead of Dwyane Wade. All 3 of those guys went after him. And the Pistons were like, yeah, we're taking the European teenager. We'll develop him. But here's where the whole thing starts to collapse. Darko was only 18 years old. He had raw talent, sure, but he was incredibly raw. The Pistons were banking on the idea that they could turn a European teenager into a superstar, fast. They thought they could build him into something, but they didn't account for the NBA reality. The NBA isn't just basketball, it's intensity, it's speed, it's pressure, and it's not patient. In his first season in Detroit, Darko averaged 1.4 points and 1.3 rebounds. He barely played. He became known as the human victory cigar because he only got minutes when the game was already decided. When the Pistons were up by 20, they'd toss him in like a consolation prize. And the worst part? Darko wasn't just sitting there quietly. He was frustrated. He knew he wasn't getting the chances he needed to develop. And that frustration started turning into something heavier, something mental. Because when you're 18 and you're supposed to be the future, and nobody lets you play, it messes with you. When he finally got minutes in Orlando and Memphis, you could see what the hype was about. He showed flashes, you could see the tools, but it was too late. By the time he found a rhythm, his confidence was already damaged. His best season didn't come until 2010 to 11 in Minnesota, where he averaged 8.8 points and 5.2 rebounds. He even led the league in blocks at one point, averaging 2.0 per game. So yeah, there was talent there. It just took forever to unlock it. And by the time it did, the NBA had already moved on. And here's the wildest part. Darko didn't fade into the background like most bust stories. He retired and went farming. Not a hobby farm, a real farm in Serbia. He owns about 125 acres, grows apples, and is planting cherry orchards. He literally left basketball behind and found peace in the simplest way possible. And honestly, that's kind of inspiring, because his story isn't just bust. It's a reminder that sometimes the best outcome isn't success in the NBA. Sometimes it's just being happy. Number 2, Greg Oden, the injury curse that ruined greatness. Greg Oden's story is one of the most tragic what-if cases in NBA history, Because when he was healthy, he didn't just look good, he looked like a legit monster. We're talking about a player who, in limited minutes, had an 18.7 PER, 60% true shooting, elite rebounding, elite shot blocking, basically everything you want from a dominant center. The problem? He barely got to play. The Portland Trail Blazers selected him first overall in 2007, ahead of Kevin Durant. Let that sink in for a second. At the time, nobody saw it as a bad pick. Oden was a defensive phenom from Ohio State, a true rim protector, and the Blazers desperately needed a big man anchor. Durant was still seen as a project scorer, so Portland made what looked like the safe move. But then reality hit. Oden never even played a game before his body started breaking down. He had microfracture surgery on his right knee before he even stepped onto an NBA court, and it didn't stop there. By his second season, he suffered a fractured patella. Then another microfracture, then another. 3 microfracture surgeries in a few years. That's not just bad luck. That's a body that was literally failing. Over his entire NBA career, Oden played just 105 games. Think about that. A first overall pick who played fewer games than most players do in 2 full seasons. And in those games, he averaged 8.0 points and 6.2 rebounds. Solid numbers, not star numbers, but solid. The harsh reality is this: the talent was there, but his body couldn't survive the NBA. And that's what makes Oden's story so painful. Because the draft isn't always about talent. Sometimes it's about health, sometimes it's about time, sometimes it's about luck. But here's what's really important. Oden didn't just disappear after basketball. He went back to Ohio State and got his degree. He worked in coaching. And now he's involved with AirPLA Sports, an AI-powered sports database. And maybe most importantly, he's been open about his struggles with depression and alcohol after retirement. He talks about it honestly, and he uses that experience to mentor young athletes. That's the difference between Greg Oden and a lot of other busts. He didn't just fail and vanish. He owned his story and tried to turn it into something useful. And honestly, that's something we don't talk about enough when we talk about draft busts. Number 1, Anthony Bennett, the 2013 first overall pick by the Cleveland Cavaliers, the guy who somehow managed to miss his first 15 field goal attempts in the NBA. Yeah, 15 straight misses. And the craziest part is that Bennett wasn't some random guy. He came out of UNLV as a freshman after averaging 16.1 points and 8.1 rebounds. On paper, he looked like a legitimate prospect, a potential power forward with size, athleticism, and upside. But from the very first day, it all went sideways in the most catastrophic way possible. His rookie season was not just bad, it was historic in the worst way. In 52 games, he averaged 4.2 points on 35.6% shooting. He didn't score in double digits until his 33rd game, setting a record for the longest drought like that for a first overall pick. By the end of the season, the entire league already knew this pick was a mistake. And the thing is, Bennett's problems weren't just he's not good. There were legitimate, real issues. He had shoulder surgery before the draft, sleep apnea, asthma, conditioning issues, reports about work ethic, team fit issues. It was like every possible problem found him at once. Like the NBA gods said, "You want to be a number 1 pick? Here's everything we can throw at you." He got traded constantly. Minnesota, Toronto, Brooklyn. Nobody wanted to touch him. And his career numbers? 4.4 points and 3.1 rebounds in 151 games. His three-point shooting settled at 26.1%, and somehow he ended up with more turnovers than assists in his entire NBA career. That's not just bad, that's a full collapse. But here's the part people miss. Bennett didn't just disappear, he went overseas. He played professionally, he won a EuroLeague championship with Fenerbahce, he played in Taiwan, he won medals with the Canadian national team. In some ways, he found his level, and he actually thrived, which is the tragic part of this story. Because the real tragedy isn't that Bennett couldn't play in the NBA. It's that the expectations were so high that nothing he did would have been enough. And that's what all of this comes back to. So yeah, these 7 guys, they represent everything that can go wrong when you combine high expectations, physical limitations, injuries, and just plain bad luck. And the wild part? A lot of them didn't just fail, they found success elsewhere or built meaningful lives after basketball. That's the thing people don't realize about the bust conversation. It's not always about a player's worth, not always about talent. Sometimes it's about circumstances, sometimes it's about timing, sometimes it's about an injury you couldn't have predicted. The NBA draft is a crapshoot, and these 7 guys are living proof of that. If you want more incredible draft stories, the amazing ones and the disasters, subscribe to the channel. We're constantly digging into NBA history and uncovering the stories behind the stats. And let me know in the comments, which of these draft busts do you think had the hardest story? I genuinely want to know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.